Hey guys, Dilo304 here. Today I come to bring you yet another video. So, my last video, yeah, about that. I was using the Galaxy S5 Active, of course, which was in pretty bad shape. And what happened was, a day or two after I made that video, the thing actually stopped working. I was at school, it was in the morning, I was using my phone, and then all of a sudden, the screen turned black and wouldn't come back on. So, yeah, I think that phone finally had enough. Like I said, it was in bad condition, which I think I briefly showed you in the last video. I can't even remember anymore. But yeah, that phone was in terrible shape, and now it doesn't work at all anymore. So, yeah, that kind of left me without a phone. And I wasn't going to let this get in the way of me getting the iPhone 6s. I will be getting it when it comes out in less than 3 weeks. So that is definitely happening. But until then, I decided to get this Nokia Lumia 635 Windows phone. Yeah. The thing is, I was going to make a new video for this phone. I was going to make kind of like a review thing. But I already have made a video of this thing on my previous channel, which was... It is several months old, but the information is still current. And besides what has been going on in my world, you know, I mentioned the iPhone 6 in that video more than once, and I also mentioned that I wasn't using this phone as a main phone in the beginning, but I have been. But the information is all the same. I mean, so yeah. So I'm just going to tack that onto this. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the overview on the Nokia Lumia 635. Hello, people. Today we're going to be looking at another phone. Yeah, okay, that you guys saw that coming. But today we're going to be doing a little overview. I'm not going to call this a review because I didn't actually use this as a phone. But we're going to be doing a little overview on the one of the cheapest LTE capable phones you can get. This is the Nokia Lumia 635. This replaced the 520 that we had last year. And yeah, here it is. We're basically just going to go ahead and do a quick overview. And, you know, we'll see if it's actually worth the price we're asking. So, here it is, Nokia Lumia 635. I believe it has a 4.5-inch screen. You know, there are capacitive buttons on the front. Well, no, that's part of the screen. Never mind, there are no buttons on the front. Up there, obviously, we have a Nokia branding and the earpiece. Notably absent from this phone is both a front-facing camera and an ambient light sensor. None of that here. You know, they had to cut corners somewhere. Down there we have a USB port, you know, for charging. We have the lock button and the volume buttons. Peculiarly, there is no camera button like the other Lumias have. And that's about it. There is really nothing else on the side. Oh, and there's a headphone jack up here. Obviously, here we have our camera. This is a 5-megapixel camera. We'll get into that a little bit later. Nokia branding, AT&T branding, and the little speaker. So, yeah, basically there is a quick little overview of the phone. So, what do I think of it? Well, I guess we'll start with the screen because that's what you're looking at. The screen is 854 by 480 in resolution, and on a 4.5-inch screen, I believe that puts it somewhere around 200-something pixels per inch. So, yeah, it looks okay. The pixel density is obviously not as high as other phones, like, you know, the iPhones and all the high-end phones. But then again, this phone costs less than a sixth of what those phones do. But anyway, the screen overall, the colors and everything, it doesn't look too bad. Definitely an improvement over the Lumia 520 of last year. That phone had a pretty horrible screen. Like, it was really, really bad. So, this is a lot better in the actual color department. So, it's a little nicer to look at, is basically what I'm trying to say here. On the back, the camera is 5 megapixels, like I said. The pictures are not very good. Let me go ahead and see if I can go into the photos here. Let's make sure I'm not showing anything. But yeah, here is a photo I took, I don't know, a while back. This is, you know, obviously a room. The lighting is kind of dim, but as you can see here, the pictures are quite washed out. There's a lot of noise. Even though this isn't ideal lighting conditions, the camera still is acceptable for maybe a phone from 4 years ago or so. But yeah, you're definitely not going to want to be taking that many pictures with this thing. The camera isn't that great. But again, like I said, This phone costs 70 bucks. It is LTE capable, and I actually do have it activated on the AT&T network, but I have I have data altogether disabled. So, yeah. Moving on, obviously this is a Windows phone, so it obviously runs Windows Phone. This is Windows Phone 8.1, which is a improvement over 8, which we had last year. I had Windows Phone 8 on a Lumia 520 last year when I had it. This is a slight improvement. We have a notification center style thing a la Android or iOS, which is okay, but I've noticed that it's really hard to swipe this thing back up. Like, if you don't get it right on there, you'll end up pressing the home button, or it won't go up at all. So that was one thing I noticed. As far as Windows Phone goes, this thing only has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 400, which is a quad core, but I believe it's only like 1.5 gigahertz. And it only has 512 megabytes of RAM. Regardless of that, the Windows Phone operating system runs pretty darn smooth. As you can see, I'm scrolling through menus and stuff. We're getting no frame drops, none of that kind of thing. It's a very fluid OS in that department. I imagine you wouldn't be able to do a whole lot of gaming or other intensive tasks on this phone. And I also imagine, because the 512 megabyte of RAM capacity on this thing, it can't really cache a whole lot of apps. So that's basically that. Like I said, it does support LTE, so if you want a super cheap phone that does 4G LTE, here it is. The battery life, like I said, I haven't used this as a phone. It's mostly been standing by, but it seems okay, acceptable. I imagine if you were using this as a phone, if you didn't use it all day long, you could get through a day just like pretty much every other phone in existence. So, yeah. So, let's move on to Windows Phone as a whole. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Windows Phone. The actual operating system itself is very fluid. It's simple, just like iOS. I'm Team iPhone, so I appreciate that kind of thing. But the killer thing about Windows Phone is the apps. Now, Windows Phone fanboys, I guess, well, I can't connect to the App Store, but Windows Phone fanboys will argue that the Windows Phone Store has over 300,000 apps or so, but the problem is the apps are just really, really bad. Microsoft had to develop their own Facebook app because the Zuckerberg and company did not want to do that. So you have to use Microsoft-developed Facebook app. Instagram is finally on Windows Phone, but it's still in beta. And I heard somewhere that it still doesn't support videos, which kind of stinks. Maybe it does now. Who knows? I think I have one more thing on here. I think I have Opera Mini. This is the only alternative browser you can get on Windows Phone. There are no Chrome, no Firefox, none of that. You either have to use Internet Explorer or this. And honestly, this browser is not very good. When you load pages, it basically looks like something from 5 or so years ago, maybe even more than that. There are not that many UI elements, and it just looks kind of crappy. Like I said, I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi right now, which I probably should have done. Hold on, I'll be right back. Let me do that. Okay, now I can demonstrate what I wanted to demonstrate here. As you will be able to see in a bit. Maybe. Okay, that's not terrible, but I see a little formatting issue there. You can see the search bar isn't all the way over there. If I go back to Google, as you can see, look at this. This looks like something straight out of, say, a PSP or something from the mid-2000s. Whereas, comparably, if I render a web page on my iPhone, hold on a second, Google, as you can see, it looks modern, like it's supposed to. So, that's the kind of thing that I don't like with this browser specifically, and that's just kind of an example of how crappy the apps are. So now I can go into the store. Most of the basic necessities are there. I mean, you have your social networks, a few anyway, and you could definitely get by, but the app quality on here is just not very good in my opinion. iOS by far has the best quality apps, and they come out the fastest, but Android is a close second. So yeah, considering all of that, would I recommend you buy this phone? There are only two circumstances under which I would recommend you buy this phone. If you are new to smartphones, this is an affordable and simple way to get with the 21st century. This is a lot simpler, I find, and easier to use than Android. That's just my personal opinion. Of course, iPhones cost about 7 times as much as this thing, so that's kind of out of the group of phones you would buy if you were looking for something like this. And the second circumstance is if you're really strapped for cash, this is a pretty good buy. But when you have phones like the Motorola Moto G, which this is a $100 Android smartphone. It's about the same, it has the same CPU, although this has 1 GB of RAM, although, you know, Android uses more RAM by default anyway, so I assume the performance is going to be largely the same. But when you have phones like this, which again include a front-facing camera and an ambient light sensor, and this one, as you saw earlier, has even an LED notification light, and the screen is a lot better quality, mind you. This is a 1280 by 720 panel, where the other one is only 854 by 480. And, you know, the pixel density is a lot higher. I believe this is a little over, or close to 300. So, screen, definitely a lot better on this phone. It has a front camera, it has an ambient light sensor, it has an LED notification light, and it runs Android. So you're going to get a lot more, selection of apps for you to use. Obviously, they're going to be higher quality apps. And yeah, if this phone didn't exist, I would say, yeah, sure, go ahead and buy this. But for only $20 or $30 more, you can have this Moto G here, and it will be infinitely better. So, that's basically my opinion of the Lumia 635 and Windows Phone as a whole. Would I recommend it? Like I said, sort of. It's between these two. These are the best budget phones you can buy right now. So, between these two, but I would have to recommend the Moto G over the Lumia 635. Anyway, I know I just rambled a crap ton, but thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you later.